Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to identify five crises which I fear are going to tear Pakistan apart if the government of Pakistan cannot manage them effectively. But before I do that, I want to let you know that at the end of this presentation, I will make a brief summary in Hindi and Urdu. I call it Urdu, Hindi plus Urdu. So I will do a Hindi plus Urdu summary of my English presentation at the end of the video, since many of you do request that I do some of this work in Hindi. So I'm going to identify five crises, not five events, not five developments, but five processes that are taking place. This is important to understand that these are processes that are taking place inside Pakistan, which could potentially tear the country apart in the year 2023 if they are not managed effectively. But before I do that, please subscribe to Khanversations, ring the bell icon, like the video, and remember to share it with your friends later on. So, what are these five crises? I think the first and foremost is the political crisis. What I mean by political crisis is this ongoing tamasha with Imran Khan, that now that he's not a prime minister, he's going to continue protests, continue with all these videos and audios leaks, the whole gamut of the things that he's doing and the things that his opponents are doing in order to basically basically he wants elections now because he thinks he's still very popular and he's going to probably have a landslide victory, and then he will come in with a major majority in the parliament and then essentially be an elected dictator. I think that is his dream in Pakistan, to become an elected dictator. But unfortunately, the way the politics is unfolding, it is creating a crisis after crisis after crisis on a daily basis, which is eroding the trust of the public in the electoral process, if they ever had any. Not only that, it's undermining the reputations of institutions, creating divisions between the public and the establishment, but also creating divisions inside the establishment. So there are a series of multiple crises that are taking place in Pakistan as a result of Imran Khan's attempt to get back into the prime minister's position, no matter what it does to his country. The second crisis that Pakistan is facing is the economic crisis. Many of you are familiar that Pakistan has high unemployment, low growth. That is one of its problems. The exports have not grown as expected. Not only that, but it has very, very high inflation. 20 to 23% is unbelievable to have 23% inflation. And on top of that, they have very little foreign exchange, which means if they need to buy energy, if they need to buy food, and if they need to buy weapons, they have no money. So that is a huge problem. And if things continue the way it is, it could essentially default on its international commitments and its loans, which means that in future getting loans will become far more difficult. So the second crisis is the crisis, which is the economic crisis. The third crisis is security crisis. Pakistan is, whether they like it or not, at war with two Talibans, one outside, one inside. They have had many episodes on the border where the Afghan Taliban have shot mortars, have fired and killed Pakistani soldiers, killed Pakistani civilians. The Afghan Taliban do not accept the Durand Line as the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. So there is a territorial dispute there. And the Taliban, who feel that they have defeated the United States, for them, taking on Pakistan in a war would be like going to the park. So at least that's what they probably think. And Pakistan doesn't seem to have the stomach to confront the monsters it has created. And the other is the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, the Pakistani version of the Taliban, who are trying to basically establish a Taliban-style Islamic State in Pakistan. They have already declared an alternative government. They have marked territories and saying that some parts of Kashmir, some parts of northern Pakistan, etc., belong to them. So Pakistan is facing a security problem of terrorism and essentially international security. So they are at war with two uh, Talibans, and they would be lucky if India, which for India, this is a great opportunity to simply go in and take whatever it likes. It can take POK, it can take Lahore if it wants. So for India, this could be a great opportunity. Fortunately for Pakistan, Indian political leadership, Indian military leadership, the intelligentsia in India, a majority of Indians do not think like Pakistanis. If the I'm convinced that if the balance of power was reversed, if Pakistan had as much political and economic clout relatively that India has today with regards to Pakistan, they would have attacked India a long time ago. So Pakistan has a huge security crisis. It could collapse under the weight of its internal terrorism. And so, if they do not wage a serious war against the Taliban, both inside and outside, I think they are going to suffer significantly insecurity. It'll be a drain on their economy, it'll be a drain on their trust, and the world is not going to look at them positively because they're going to see them as the epicenter of terror, unwilling to fight the terrorists. Even the United States has already agreed to help them, is willing to provide resources provided they fight. The US wants Pakistan to fight all terrorism in Afghanistan, which would include ISIS and Al Qaeda. But if Pakistan fights only TTP, then I think it will lose United States support. The US is against terrorism. Pakistan is against headaches of its own making. And if Pakistan doesn't do this, it's going to be in deep trouble. And let me tell you that Pakistan's problem is not just terrorism, its problem is extremism, which is rampant and widespread in its own society. The fourth problem that Pakistan has is a systemic crisis. Pakistan's system is a very strange kind of hybrid democracy. And they talk about hybrid democracy as if it's some kind of a respectable thing. No, hybrid democracy means it's an authoritarian state which occasionally has elections. This whole model where the military dominates the politics, the economy, etc. Imagine having a military intelligence which also works like the FBI at home. So ISI these are generals who are maintaining internal security. They should have had a separate police force that takes care of internal and criminal issues and maintains national security elsewhere. Anyway, they have a systemic problem, the division of power between the so-called establishment. It has a military that behaves like an alternative state or sometimes the main state, and the government is just make believe, I guess. So these two power centers, Islamabad based and Rawalpindi based, are in crisis at the moment, which is manifest because of the political crisis triggered by the removal of Imran Khan. So these two crises are fueling each other. And finally, the fifth crisis that I identify is a long-term crisis. It's been going on for several decades in Pakistan, which is an identity crisis. Pakistan has to decide whether it's a liberal democracy where Muslims live or whether it wants to be an Islamic state that imposes a particular interpretation of Islam belonging to a century, maybe 1,000 years ago or more. So this is the debate in Pakistan. A segment of the Pakistani society is determined to make Pakistan an Islamic state like Taliban. I have heard no other alternatives. Imran Khan talks about the constitution of Medina and the state of Medina, the Riyasat al-Medina. Well, I have actually written extensively on this topic for the last 20 years. I've written on the constitution of Medina. And in my book, I also talk about the state of Medina. My book is called Islam and Good Governance. You can check it out. And I've actually made sure that a couple of sets of the copies were sent to Imran Khan. From his talks, I can gather that he doesn't read much. But the point is that the Pakistani people are not sure of who they are. Are they a liberal democratic society which is interested in pursuing a vibrant intellectual, cultural, and economic state, or are they some kind of a military garrison state which is determined to grab some territory from India and impose a Sharia on its own population by force. So these are the five crises which are, I think, tearing Pakistan apart. And some of them will require use of force to settle, and some of them will require systematic, long term education and a reform in political ideology and political outlook. There are regional and global ramifications if Pakistan collapses. There's a lot of people in India seem to be enjoying this moment, and they feel that this is karma. Pakistan deserves. It has been promoting terrorism across its borders in India, and now that same terrorism has come back to bite Pakistan. And so it's a kind of a thrill for a lot of people in India. But I fear that if Pakistan were to break up, it could easily generate 100 million refugees running away from the Taliban who might take over. And some may go, I don't think they would head towards Afghanistan. All of them, regardless of what their final destination is, are going to run towards India. And while ordinary people in India think that the Indian army can stop them and shoot them, no, you cannot kill refugees who are coming across your border, running away from chaos. There's also all of this, these five crises that I pointed out, are also emphasized. These are all human made crises. And then there is the environmental crisis, the sixth crisis, that it's separate because part of it is man made, but part of it is the way the planet has been treated by all of us. So Pakistan is also misery is also compounded by the environmental crisis, the floods that it seems to have periodically, the earthquakes, etc. So it's like saying that Pakistan is being hit from all sides, and on top of this, its elite continue to sound aggressive and make threats of war towards India, which I find quite amusing to say the least. But this is something to watch in 2023, how Pakistan handles these crises and if Pakistan can manage them well. मैं आपका दोस्त, आपका होस्ट मुख्तदर खान. अब मैं इसकी ब्रीफ हिंदी उर्दू में समरी दूंगा. मेरी ये एनालिसिस है कि पाकिस्तान इज गोइंग थ्रू कई प्रॉब्लम्स, कई क्राइसिस, 5 मैन मेड क्राइसिस हैं और एक नेचुरल एनवायरमेंटल क्राइसिस है. और इन क्राइसिस की वजह से पाकिस्तान की हो सकता है कि टुकड़े टुकड़े हो जाए 2023 में, या स्टेट कोलैप्स हो जाए, जिसके वजह से हज़ारों लाखों रेफ्यूजीज वहाँ से निकलेंगे और सारी दुनिया में फैलेंगे. ख़ास तौर से इंडिया पे काफ़ी असर होगा, ईरान की तरफ भी वो निकल सकते हैं. तो ये जो 5 मैन मेड क्राइसिस हैं, एक तो सियासी क्राइसिस है, पॉलिटिकल क्राइसिस है, जिसमें भी इमरान खान को निकालने की वजह से जो हुई है, जो कोशिशें इमरान खान कर रहे हैं, कभी मार्च कर रहे हैं, कभी लेक्चर्स दे रहे हैं, कभी पता नहीं क्या कर रहे हैं, वीडियोस निकल रहे हैं, एक अजीब सियासी तमाशा बना हुआ है मुल्क. तो उस मुल्क में ये पॉलिटिकल क्राइसिस जो है सो गवर्नेंस होने नहीं दे रही. इट इज़ बिकम इम्पॉसिबल टू गवर्न पाकिस्तान. और गवर्नमेंट खुद आधा टाइम तो इमरान खान के साथ पॉलिटिकल फुटबॉल खेल रही है, तो उसको गवर्न करने के पास कहाँ टाइम. दूसरी चीज़ है पाकिस्तान की इकॉनमी. माशी हालत बिल्कुल ठीक ठाक नहीं है पाकिस्तान में. इन्फ्लेशन बहुत ज़्यादा है, पाकिस्तान की ग्रोथ बहुत लो है, एक्सपोर्ट बहुत कम है, फॉरेन रिजर्व्स बहुत कम है, जिसके वजह से कई इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस पैदा हो चुके हैं. और सबसे बड़ा मसला ये हो सकता है कि अगर कोई ज़रूरत पड़ी तो वो कोई भी चीज़ बाहर से ख़रीद नहीं सकते क्योंकि उनके पास रिजर्व्स नहीं हैं. और अगर वो डिफ़ॉल्ट करते हैं तो मुस्तकबिल में, फ्यूचर में लोन्स लेने में बहुत मुश्किल होगी. उनकी क्रेडिट रेटिंग तबाह बर्बाद हो जाएगी. 10-20 साल लगते हैं डिफ़ॉल्ट से रिकवर करने के लिए. तीसरी जो प्रॉब्लम है सिक्योरिटी की क्राइसिस है. ये बहुत ही सीरियस मसला है. पाकिस्तान मेरे ख्याल से बेसिकली 2 जंगें लड़ रहा है. 2 तालिबान के ख़िलाफ़, अफ़गान तालिबान के साथ बॉर्डर पे जो झगड़े चल रहे हैं वो जंग की सूरत हाल में हैं. और जो तहरीक तालिबान पाकिस्तान जो TTP है, तो बाकायदा एक नई रियासत डिक्लेयर कर दी है. 2 गवर्नमेंट है आजकल पाकिस्तान में. और अगर TTP के पीछे जाती है पाकिस्तान, वो अफ़गानिस्तान में भागेंगे. और अगर उनको पाकिस्तान अफ़गानिस्तान में मारता है तो तालिबान के साथ जंग ज़रूर होगी. जहाँ तक तालिबान का सवाल है, वो तो समझते हैं कि उन्होंने अमेरिका को ہرا دیا. تو پاکستان کیا چیز ہے؟ چپی دی شوربہ کہتے ہیں. تو طالبان کے لیے تو ان کی زندگی جنگ ہے، تو وہ اسی طرح لڑتے رہیں گے مسلسل پاکستان کے لیے جب تک کہ پاکستان ڈوب نہ جائے. تو پاکستان کے یہ سیکیورٹی کرائسس بہت سنگین ہے، بہت سیریس ہے. اور پاکستان کی خوش قسمت ہے کہ انڈیا کی جو پولیٹیکل ایلیٹ ہے وہ پاکستانی پولیٹیکل ایلیٹ کی طرح نہیں سوچتی، ورنہ یہ بہت اچھا موقع ہے انڈیا کو پاکستان پہ جنگ کرے اور جو حصے اسے چاہیے لے لیں. خاص طور سے پی او کے، پاکستان آکوپائڈ کشمیر کو وہ لبریٹ کر سکتے ہیں. بٹ آئی ایم ناٹ شیور کہ انڈیا ول ڈو دس. بٹ پاکستان کو یہ جب تک ڈر ہے وہ آدھی اپنی فوجیں اپنی ایسٹرن فرنٹ پہ رکھے گا اور پھر آدھی فوج سے کیا لڑے گا؟ طالبانوں سے. وی ول سی واٹ ہیپنس ان 2023. جو چوتھی ہے میں اسے سسٹمک کرائسس کہتا ہوں. یہ وہ کرائسس ہے جس میں پاکستان کی جو گورنمنٹ کا اسٹرکچر ہے اس میں ٹینشن آ گیا ہے. گورنمنٹ کا اسٹیبلشمنٹ کا رول، فوج ایسا جیسا ایکٹ کرتی جیسا کہ وہ ایک اسٹیٹ ہے ان اٹ سیلف. تو جو اسٹیٹ کے اندر اسٹیٹ ہے، تو مطلب سوچیے آپ، پاکستان ہے، پاکستان کے اندر پاکستان کی گورنمنٹ ہے اور پاکستان کے اندر اسٹیبلشمنٹ ہے، اور اب طالبان ٹی ٹی پی نے ایک ریاست ڈکلیئر کر دی. تو اٹس لائک کنفیوزنگ. بعض وہ علاقے جہاں پر ٹی ٹی پی کا تھوڑا بہت کنٹرول ہے، سوچیے اگر آپ وہاں رہتے تو آپ کے لیے حکومت کون ہے؟ تو دس از اے سسٹمک کرائسس. اس میں پاکستان کو اپنے اسٹیٹ کو ری ڈیزائن کرنا ہوگا اور ملٹری سول جو بیلنس ہے اس کو کسی نہ کسی طرح سے اس طرح سے ایڈجسٹ کرے کہ فوج سویلین کنٹرول میں رہے ہمیشہ. ایک اور مسئلہ ہے جسے میں آئیڈینٹی کرائسس کہتا ہوں. پاکستان میں بعض لوگ ہیں جو چاہتے ہیں کہ پاکستان ایک سیکولر لبرل ڈیموکریسی رہے جس میں خیال کی آزادی ہو، مذہب کی آزادی ہو، کلچرل وائبرنسی ہو. اور ایک ایسا طبقہ ہے جو بالکل ایک بہت ہی تنگ قسم کا انٹرپریٹیشن اسلامی شریعہ کا نافذ کرنا چاہتے ہیں. جس طرح افغانستان میں طالبان ہیں اس طرح پاکستان میں بھی وہ نافذ کرنا چاہتے ہیں. امیجن کریں آپ کہ پاکستان میں اگر ٹی ٹی پی کی حکومت آ گئی تو پہلے کام تو وہ یہی کریں گے، ظلم تو اپنے ہی لوگ پہ کرتے ہیں، ساری عورتوں کو نوکریوں سے نکال دیں گے اور پھر پڑھنے بھی نہیں دیں گے. کین یو امیجن کیا ہوگا؟ تو یہ ایک آئیڈینٹی کرائسس ہے پاکستان میں کہ لوگ کس قسم کا نظام چاہتے ہیں. اور ان ساری چیزوں کو ان سے میں مین میڈ کرائسس کہتا ہوں. ان سب کو ایگزاسپریٹ کر رہے ہیں، ان کے اثر کو ڈبل ٹریبل فورس ملٹی پلائر کے طور پہ جو انوائرمنٹل کرائسس ہے. یہ جو طوفان بار بار آتے ہیں پاکستان میں، فلڈز آتے ہیں، ارتھ کویکس آتے ہیں، جیسا کہ خدا کے عذاب ایک کے بعد ایک کے بعد ایک کے بعد ایک پاکستان پہ آ رہے ہیں. تو وہ ساری چیزیں بھی گورننس کو مشکل کر دیتے ہیں، اکانومی پر اسٹرین ڈالتے ہیں. تو 2023 پاکستان کے لیے بہت ہی کرٹیکل سال ہے. اس میں وہ کیا اپنے آپ کو مطلب کیا ان کے پاس ایسی لیڈرشپ ہے کہ وہ اتنے مشکل مرحلے کو حل کر سکتے ہیں. میں آپ کا دوست، میں ہوسٹ مقتدر خان، اور آپ کو اگر یہ تبصرہ پسند آیا تو چینل کو ضرور لائک کریں، بیل آئیکن کو دبائیں، اور ویڈیو کو بھی لائک کریں اور اسے شیئر کریں اپنے دوست احباب کے ساتھ. شکریہ بہت بہت.